Welcome to another episode of Trap Talk. Today, we're going to go special edition on you guys. We're going to talk about our trip to the Fuhjairah Mountain Championship. We went to Dubai, me and Ricky, and shot some sporting clays. And today we're just going to go over a little bit about our experience and how it went. Thanks for being here today, Ricky.
Absolutely, Zach. It's great to see you again. I mean, we were together for like 8 days across the world, you know?
Yeah, that was a long trip. So, Rick, first of all, I just want to start with the trip over there. How did it go in your mind? I mean, obviously, I was in the coach and you were in the business class. So walk listeners through what it took to get prepared to go to Dubai for a shooting competition and how our overall experience was getting there.
Well, honestly, I mean, I thought it was a great trip. Of course, you got us signed up and everything because the credit card companies don't like, charges stuff, I guess, across the country or across the world. We booked our flights on Emirates because it was a nonstop, of course. And last minute, I decided to upgrade to business class just because everybody I was talking to was like, man, 14-hour flight, your size, you're going to want that, lay down bed and, in that little cubby. And it was nice. I'll tell you, I enjoyed several old fashions on the trip and some good cuisine. And it was a 13.5-hour flight. I slept for 7 hours. I don't know. Did you get much sleep back in economy?
I got a little bit of sleep, but I upgraded my seat to the one without anyone sitting in front of you. So it was an exit row. So I had tons of leg room, and that was a pretty inexpensive upgrade. I think the round trip ticket was $1,000. And with the upgrade, I was like right at $1,400 round trip to give people some perspective on what it costs to do this trip. But I'd sleep for a few hours and then I wake up. It leaned back more than the regular Southwest plane does, but not as much as Ricky. He had a full laydown. So I walked up there and they looked at me like I was in the wrong neighborhood. And I seen Ricky in there and he's all laid out in this nice cot and it's all like beautiful wood. And, he's got old fashioned sitting there. And I'm like, man, I got to go back to coach. So I grab an Evian water from the high end class and I go back there and I'm enjoying it. But the meals, I mean, they had 3 hot meals for us, all you can drink, all you can, really eat. If you wanted more food, they'd give it to you for free. It all comes in. And the staff was very, very good at their job. They were very, I guess, welcoming and very high on the hospitality end of it for sure.
Yeah.
I've never flown Emirates, but if I fly again, I think probably it's the only way. And I really liked that it was nonstop out of Chicago. Now, getting to Chicago was another story in itself. But I don't know if I'd want to do like a 6-hour flight and then another 7-hour flight. Like, I think just going all the way on one plane's nice.
I was thinking about this, they're planning to do this shoot every 2 years. So people want to go or need some info, they can definitely, hit us up in 2025 about, going or whatnot, the experience. The cost really to go wasn't that bad. My ticket was a little bit higher than yours by about $1,500 more.
Yeah, $1,600. So you're at 3,000 round trip, and I was 1,400 round trip. But you only went business one way, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was just business one way. Couldn't get it on the way back. It was way too expensive to upgrade on the way back. I was thinking that with all the expenses and everything, we probably spent $4 or $5 grand going. Now, probably a little bit less than that, honestly, because the entry was $400. And that included, for everybody that doesn't understand this, the $400 included your targets and your ammo to compete for the 200 targets. And it also included your transportation from Dubai International to Fuhjairah to our resort, Rotana, and then back to the airport when we were all done shooting, but every day also to and from the shooting range. I thought all in all, the cost was very cheap for what we were doing.
Yeah, I think the extra money that we spent was when we went to the Mall of Dubai. We were buying gifts and getting stuff, and that was the money that we spent. But this mall in Dubai, it's incredible. It's the largest mall in the world, they say. And they've got a waterfall in there. They've got ice skating rings in there. They've got golf courses in there. They've got a ski slope in there. It's somewhere we didn't see it all, but
No.
I mean, this stuff's in there, and we're like, oh man. But the other thing they've got is just like diamonds and like these jewelry stores where there's like $4 or $5 or $6 million necklaces just in the middle of the mall, and it was just like no big deal. You could definitely feel they had some juice over there, so it was.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Our wives couldn't go, so Zach and I went together, and that was great in itself. But we stayed at the same resort with Nick Berry, Anthony Matarese, Dominic Grassi, Joe Finizzi, his family, Caitlin Koenig and her mom. So we had a great time. We had a great group of people. We had a fantastic dinner on Tuesday night with Mustafa. That was great. He invited all the Americans, Will Fennel, Madison Sharp, Given and Karen Miles. And so we just had a great experience. We were welcomed by all the people there. And that was one of the things that for my first trip internationally, competing in anything, let alone sporting clays, I thought it was a great time. It was run well. The targets were some of the hardest and most extreme sporting clays targets I've ever seen, but it was such a fun experience. And I think for people that have never experienced something like this, they ought to look at going and traveling outside. And I call it, traveling outside your realm. I shoot sporting clays in the United States several times a year, but nothing on this altitude.
Yeah, it was crazy. And, to back up to the welcoming, I never felt uncomfortable in this place. I mean, from the minute I got on the plane in Chicago till the minute I landed in Dubai. And then as soon as we got there, obviously Ricky was off the plane first because he had business class. So I come waddling in behind, and there's a lady there with our names on a sheet. And she's like, oh, we're waiting on Mr. Nanini. And he's like, oh yeah, that's Zach. We'll wait on him. And then boom, they pick us up. We're in a little golf cart. They take us to customs. Now, that's something I guess we should go through. The guns. That in itself was a little bit of a different experience because you're not going to get to handle your guns when you get to this country. So the way it works is you fill out some paperwork here in the United States. You declare, that you're bringing a firearm. You need to put your serial numbers on, and then you need to get a form. And I don't remember the name of the form, but it's basically,
I think it's the
4417 or something like that.
It's your U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
And that's to declare the value of our firearm. So when we're bringing it on back in, you don't have to pay a tariff or a tax for bringing a firearm into this country. Correct, Rick?
Well, this form's the 4457 is what it is you fill it out. You go to U.S. Border Protection. They look at your serial number, your barrel numbers. It's all written down. They sign it, stamp it. You need that to get back in the United States to show that, hey, I took this out with me, and, proof to bring it back in.
That's what it looks like.
Yep, so, that form right there. Very simple. But the Fuhjairah form that we had to fill out, and that was for the Dubai police, because like Zach said, I've been to Canada and shot, and you go in, boom, boom, when you take your gun, you can go anywhere you want to with it. Just like in the United States, anywhere you want to. Well, over there, you get there, they went us through customs, we got our bag, and then Zach and I ended up stopping in the duty free so we could pick up some nice Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, we didn't get the Buffalo Trace. That was handy.
Yeah, we had to have that in the room. And they do allow a little bit of drinking in the resorts. There's no bars in Fuhjairah anywhere. So we got there. The police were waiting on us. They ran over the numbers with us, looked at everything. Everything was good. And the officer said, I'll have your guns there tomorrow morning. And we had air tags in our cases. And sure enough, I woke up, I think at like 4 a.m. and like 4:30, the guns were on the move.
Yeah.
And they were there.
That's something that I recommend to anyone that travels. If you buy an air tag, it's $25, track it on your phone, throw that in your mirror case or whatever it is. Then you know where your gun's at. For us, we were worried because we got in so late, and we're like, well, we want to practice in the morning at 7 a.m. And we're like, is our gun even going to be there at 7 a.m.? Well, sure thing. We wake up, guns are there at 6. So, they basically transported them, with the police all the way to the gun club, which is about an hour and a half away from Dubai International Airport. And then they had a system where you could check your guns in and out. Now, once you checked your gun out, they gave you a little card, and you sign the thing and you go and you take it. and you put it in the sleeve, and then you were out shooting all day with it. And then you had to make sure to bring it back. And that was a big thing because there were police on the range all day. And like, you would never be able to leave your gun unattended. It wasn't like here where you could just leave your gun on the ground on a shooting bag and walk away. Like, you had to have it in the rack, or you had to have it on your persons. Yep, that's the card right there. So yeah,
get it out of the target.
Yeah, it's over
right
your
there.
face, maybe. Yeah. So that's the card they gave us, and basically our guns were in there every day, and very, very, very safe, very, very easy. We got transport back to the resort, and went to the bar and had a little something to eat because we were tired. I'd say the hardest thing for me to adjust to was the time change. It was 10 hours ahead from St. Louis time when we arrived. We left Saturday night at 7 p.m. and then we arrived Sunday night, 7 p.m. roughly in Dubai. So by the time we got to our resort, it was, 10 o'clock ish.
Yeah, we got there. Actually, I think it was like 10:30 that first night. Remember, then we went down and we got some food, had a couple beers, got to the room. Zach and I split a room, and it was nice little resort. Rotana, I'd recommend it to anybody. It's a family-friendly resort.
Yeah.
They had a beautiful beach, nice swim up pool that Zach and I partaked in some mojitos one night.
Yeah, they've got a swim up bar. It's beautiful. I mean, and clear beaches. I mean, the beach was clean. The food was good. And I ran some numbers. We were splitting a room at a resort like this. Me and Rick were $500 a piece. $1,400 was my plane ticket, and then $400 was registration. So, before all of the mall stuff and dinners and all that, you're really at this trip about $2,400. In my mind, going to a shoot for a week with a hotel, with a plane ticket, with shells, with targets, you're not going to do that in the States for that much money most of the time. I mean, if you're staying at the Marriott or you're driving. Yeah. So I feel like we got a really good value for our money. And, to thank the Prince, he's the guy who subsidized this whole event. So I'm sure it cost a lot more to come do this, but, he wanted everyone to come. So he basically kicked in the dough to the resorts to get everything to where it all penciled out and worked.
Yeah, because it was, I know I looked after the fact at a room, and I want to say it was like right around 1,000 AD. So like 300 a night or 400 a night over, what would cost us.
Yes.
And that's because it was subsidized by the shoot. I think.
So we're paying $89, $90 a night American, and normally it's 300 a night. So that difference, that was all covered by the High Prince, and and because we were the guests going for the shoot, the Crown Prince, right?
Yeah,
Crown Prince. Okay, yeah, I mean, learning every day, but yeah, you didn't really get to meet this guy because he was like out there one night and he had his caravan of all the guys around him protecting him. He was like the president. You don't really ever get to shake his hand, but he's there when he's there because it's a big commotion for sure.
Yep. Yeah, it was a great event. And going back to what Zach was saying about the air tags, traveling in the States, you got your luggage, you can see, blah, 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 no big deal. Now, we will go back to Caitlin Koenig. They lost her suitcase. Emirates did. And she had an air tag, and she kept showing them, it's here in Dubai. And they were like, nah, we're not looking at it. Well, I think her bag ended up traveling like
India.
14 flights or something, or 12 flight, whatever. I mean, her bag came back and there was more tags on it than tags on a deer. And it was crazy that she tracked it all the way to India. So
New Delhi, India, I think it went to. It was hanging out over there. We felt bad for her because some poor girl, she's walking around, she's got the same pants on for 3 days at the resort. So me and Ricky are going to make a little fun of that every once in a while. But
that was more Zach. He nicknamed her Stinky. But we had a great time. It was a great ran shoot. George Digweed and Phil Gray from England, they set the targets. Were they easy to see? No, there was a lot of visibility issues. Zach and I are used to seeing targets going away in a sky background or even tree background possibly. And your shoot, they were bio targets because you were in a I understand it was like a national forest for that.
A wildlife preserve is what I
Yeah.
heard. Like a park, basically.
Yeah, basically like
just for this.
Yeah, and so they had to use bio targets, and so with the tan bottoms, they were tough to see. But was it cool? And some of the targets they threw, absolutely. I mean, would I do it again and shoot the same target? Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference. I mean, this was only my second sporting clay shoot ever. Ricky shot a lot of them, but I went to Sporting Clays National down in San Antonio last year just to check it out and to get, a Wenig made me a sporting stock and Krieghoff got me a sporting barrel. Cause I mean, I'm out there with a trap gun trying to figure this out. And they're like, nah, you need this. And so it definitely does help to have the equipment to shoot the game. Yep. But even still, this is my second one ever. And everyone kept telling me, Zach, this is about as difficult as a shot as you're ever going to see. Some of the shots were, 50, 60, 70 yards hauling. And then you had some shots that were 80, 90, 100 yards away. And it's just like, the amount of lead that you have to put on a bird like that. I mean, a full school bus or more to break it is incredible. The other thing that I learned that we were using, and I didn't really know this until a couple days in, but it was copper plated lead shot. So a little lighter. And it was for, bio reasons, obviously, just like the bio targets. They didn't want anything to leak lead into the environment. But the way that we were in these mountain terrains, they were able to set targets that you couldn't even think of setting here in America. I mean, because they were putting machines up on mountaintops and then throwing the targets back to you. Like, how did they even think of this? And I think you got to give a lot of credit to George on that. Depending on where you shot, what time of the day, the light was a difficult thing to deal with. Sometimes they had a bunch of machines set out in the middle of a lake, and there was a raft where they had machines on it. And it was throwing targets back to the shore where we were at shooting. But with the sun, if the sun was over your head, you got a whole lot of glare on that water. So visibility, I'd say visibility was probably the hardest part of this shoot, just because, I mean, mountains, sky, water, desert, and, you take that target and, mix it into that. And sometimes you see it really well. Sometimes you don't, so.
It was difficult down in that quarry when it, with the water, they had a little boat that they had to take out to load the machines, and it was cool targets. So, and they were tough. I mean, there was, I think I hit one of the targets, and the guy on the squad in front of us hit one, and we were like the only two. The ladies said that it hit one in like 8 squads. It's one of those that you just had to be lucky on some. But I will say we shot a lot of practice the one day. I enjoyed doing that. We probably spent, I don't know, $200 or $300 shooting practice, which
maybe, I think about $200, but
it was games too.
For that $200, we probably shot at least 200 more targets, maybe 200 targets, and that's with shells. So that was pretty that included all the shells with your practice when you purchased the practice tickets, and then they had game tickets like a 5-stand sport trap, and then a pool shoot deal that George had, and we shot that a few times. But I will say shooting that helped, and for you, Zach, starting off, you struggled, but with the help of Nick Berry, Nick came out and shot with us, and he really helped Zach, a lot with, Zach was trying to play tennis with his hands. He's going one way or another, and Nick's like, listen, act like there's a bird in your hands and you can't kill it. So that in itself, I mean, for the listeners, we're all trap shooters, right? I mean, I want everything to be as precise as possible in a window, in a tight little area. And now you're talking about swinging and watching some of these targets. There were stations where I'd set up and I was shooting on one side, and I'd have to turn my body completely 180 degrees to finish the shot. So you think about the amount of movement that you need to make from, 180 degree turn. I mean, that's huge, right? So you talk about really, gripping the gun, or, only driving the gun with your shoulder. Like, I mean, I do in trap. I'm all core and all in the center. And in sporting, I've seen a lot of guys finish with their hands. I mean, they're matching with the backhand on speed, and then they're finishing with that front hand. It's a completely different deal. And on top of that, they're not on the gun like we are in trap. I mean, I'm seeing some of the best guys and they're just touching the gun to their face, maybe even not even touching the gun to the face. And I'm like, how do you have that reference point? And it's just that they know exactly where it is. They're looking out in the sky and they're delivering that shot. For me, if I'm not locked into that gun in trap, I feel very uncomfortable. And so that was a different thing for me to really adjust to, but it's a completely different game for sure.
Oh yeah. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, and the nice thing about this is originally Zach and I thought, hey, we're going to go over there, we're going to shoot together. Well, it's random squatting. We were shooting practice one day and with a couple guys and one of them was Aish from Kuwait. We became friends just immediately. We all just get along and we're all shooters all over the world. And well, as luck behold, boom, I'm squatted with Aish. So I had an awesome squad. I probably had one of the best squads there because I had Aish from Kuwait, Michael Nesti from Italy, Patrice from Spain, and then Muna from Qatar. And Patrice is one of the top lady sporting shooters overseas. And I think even in the world, she ended up finishing 4th place. But cool thing was we all helped each other. We chatted in between shots. Even some of the referees commented that said, you guys are having a good time and that's what we like to see. And because these referees, I mean, they're professional. They're Johnny on the spot. And
and they don't play. I mean, they'll ding you quick. And it's not like in trap where you're sitting there and you're shooting and then you're telling the ref what the rules are. I mean, and you're trying to figure it out. It's, they know, and they'll take a target away quicker than you can make your head spin.
Well,
like, boom.
Yeah. Here's one of the things. You can't be in the station, the square, circle, whatever. If your foot's in there, they can call a lost target on the shooter, even from the person watching. So, but the one thing about this shoot too, though, that we didn't mention is they threw flash targets. Our squad actually, we had 3 flash targets. The squad in front of us had a bunch and they kept throwing them as look targets because you got up to every peg. So each layout, you shot 3 layouts the first 2 days and then 2 layouts a second. On each layout, there was 3 pegs and you usually shot 5 singles and 2 pairs, 5 singles and 2 pairs, and then 5 singles and a pair. So 997 to make your 25. Each single, you got full use of the gun, 2 shots. And it was very interesting is the first day we didn't see any. The second day on Friday, Patrice got one. We were up on layout 8 and it come across the top of the mountain. And I could see the bottom had like a weird color to it. And when she smoked it, it smoked green or pink. I can't remember actually on hers. And we were all excited because that's $500.
Yeah.
Well, we went down then from there to layout 1. And on layout 1, the guy said, now listen, don't be throwing too many look targets on these chandelles. There's been a lot of flash targets. We're like, oh. So she gets in, she shoots, boom, boom, boom. I get in, I call, and I missed the first 2 targets. And I was like, God, I shouldn't have missed these targets. I'm like, get your head back in the game. And I get the chandelle and boom, here is a flash target, green target, pink center. And I'm like, get in the gun. And I just smoked that thing. And I was all happy because $500, my entry fee's covered. So that was cool. We were excited. Everybody's hooping and hollering. And then as luck behold, Saturday, the last day, sure enough, I get another green target, pink center. And I'm like, Daddy's doubling his money.
Double up, baby. That's just good, clean living and luck. I didn't see one of these things all week when I was in Dubai, but Ricky's seeing them by the dozen, so it is what it is. But
it was great. I mean, it was $1,000. They paid you in cash. And I mean, there was just a well-run deal. Now, Zach, how was your squad that you shot with?
I had a great squad. I had a gentleman named Andrew Wasaki, I think is how you say his name. He's from Canada. Yeah, and I think he finished like 9th in the shoot. So it was really nice to shoot with someone that had a lot of experience, that knew how to shoot, and being Canadian, we were able to talk a lot. Cultures were very similar, Americans and Canadians, just like trap shooting. And then another friend of mine, his name's Radu, and he was a great shooter. And I think he's from Turkey. And then another guy named Michael, who's newer to the game. This was his second sporting clay shoot also. So you had diverse, it was a guy that was one of the best in the country. or one of the best in the world, obviously. And then you had a guy that was really good, but, maybe been doing it for 5 or 7 years. And then you had me and this other guy that were new. And, I had some ability, like everybody's like, oh, well, he looks like he knows what he's doing, right? And then I just don't hit anything. So that's the problem is, as I look real good out there, I got all the right gear and the right moves, but it's just a matter of hitting more targets. But as I shot, every day I got better. So, I moved up every day. I got a little bit better and learned a little bit more. And I feel a lot more comfortable now. I want to go back in 25, and I know what I need to work on to get to the place that I need to be for that shoot. And it's a lot of long shots with a lot of lead, a lot of daylight. And you just got to, that's something you just got to shoot a ton of and train a ton of.
I shoot all the games, but shooting those extreme targets, there's a few people in the world that can do that. And 3 of them were there that I would say that we ought to go see. And one to be Anthony Matarese. Go hit him up and maybe do a couple lessons with him, and even go maybe spend a day or whatever and go see Will Fennel down in South Carolina. Will's been around the game since I think the game's been invented.
I got to meet him
and then Nick Berry.
Yeah, and Nick. And between those 3 guys, Anthony, Will, and Nick, I learned a ton of stuff, and they're very welcoming. And I think shotgun sports is evolving. We're all wanting to shoot and see different things and have fun. And these guys want you to do good. And the other guy that I met that was really helpful was Ryan Holmes. And he told me a lot that I was like, wow, that's just a different way of thinking. And when we started talking about it, it was clicking back to trap. It was all relating back where it's not so different. It's just, more movement in the body.
And elaborating real quick on Ryan Holmes. Ryan was part of the group with Mustafa, inviting us, all the Americans, to dinner and stuff. And we'd like to thank him for that. And, it was a great experience. And we went back to their resort and smoked cigar with Mustafa and had great conversation. And Ryan's very knowledgeable on a lot of stuff, especially in the sporting world, shooting world in general. So, but yeah, it was a great time for sure.
Yeah, I do enjoy a cigar every once in a while. But I guess the big cultural differences there, going there versus here is, if you're off of the resort, there's really not anything other than like stores and food. There's not bars or anything like that. It's just, out there, they've got these tea shops, tea everywhere. They drink tea freaking 24/7 out there. And they've got kebab houses. It's good tea. They put some milk and some sweetener in. I don't know if it's honey or whatever, but it's really good tea. And they've got kebab houses, coming out your ears. You can get a kebab on every corner. You get, the heroes and, I guess, the hummus and the baba ganoush and all that stuff. That's what they're living on. It's a very healthy thing. At the breakfast every morning at our hotel, it's amazing because they had American stuff there as far as like eggs, and they had turkey bacon. They didn't have any. I've never seen pork there. I don't think.
Well, they don't have pork.
I don't think they have pork there at all. But they had turkey bacon, and they had beef sausages and things like that in the morning. Like over there, a lot of the people that I see they're local were eating more of a dinner for breakfast. It was more naan bread, hummus, vegetables, some cheese, some deli meats, some things like that. And I loved it. I was happy. I know Ricky was like ready for a cheeseburger when he got home, but
no, I actually wasn't. I thought the food, the local cuisine we had with Mustafa that night, the homemade hummus and those what were they? The minced meat, beef minced meat.
Yeah, they're like little meatball things. Those are incredible.
Yeah, the quail. Everything. And then they had a beautiful layout at the shooting range for dinner that night. And this is funny, this guy's like, I'm making Italian. And he wasn't Italian.
No.
So I was like, okay, what do you got? And he said, you like a fettuccine? And I said, sure, give me some fettuccine. And it was good.
Oh, yeah, it was good.
The cream sauce was all like a goat cream or something. And it was like, I was like,
it was good. Yeah. So the 2 big events they had we had the opening ceremony and we had the closing ceremony. And the opening ceremony, there was food galore. And they had these stations where it was a pasta station They had a lamb station. They had
Goat
hero
station.
stations. They had, all kinds of desserts and stuff. But it was just like a huge area where you could just walk up and get all these different foods, French fries or whatever, burgers. And it was all free. It was all included in the deal just to say thank you for coming. And then they did the same thing, basically, the closing ceremonies.
And that was one thing is I posted some pictures on my Facebook. I know Zach has too, and even on my Instagram of they had the locals there doing their dance and their rituals and stuff. And it was cool to see what other countries do and stuff. For me, first time traveling internationally. And we got to hold the Falcons there. That was kind of cool. I mean, that one, I kept looking at him and he'd look at me and through these blinders. And I'm like, dude sees me. But, I will say that going back to like my squad I shot with, Aish from Kuwait, he's talking about coming over to M&M in 2024 for the World Championships, which will be held at Anthony Matarese's club in New Jersey, M&M Sporting, and putting a squad together. And I would love to see is some trap shooters that enjoy shooting sporting clays is go to some of these other big shoots. Go around.
Check it out. Check it out. It really is. Yep. And what you learn when you go to these other shoots is they're all good people,
Yep.
So
absolutely.
You go in and it's like, I've been welcomed now by these other people that are sporting clay shooters. And it feels like I've known them for 20 years after a week of hanging out, just like a trap shoot. And, they're all honest and they'll take care of you and they're there to help. And what I like about it is it's getting me back to the beginning of trap shooting in the fact that like right now, I'm really trying to get myself to the next level of trap shooting and work on the little finer things, right? But like when you're at a 99 average and you're trying to get to 99.4, you're already kind of there, but you're pushing and pushing and pushing. Well, sporting clays for me is like my first 25 all over again. It's like, okay, where do I put the shells? Where's the gun? And it brings me back to the root of what I fell in love with is learning. And it's learning over again and taking that. And I can tell you there was things that I was learning over there that I'm going to integrate at some level into my shooting sports game all the way around. So I think whenever you go other directions, even though you're not going to perform as well, you're learning things. And that learning is invaluable. And that training is invaluable. And it's just like, oh, okay, this is how they think. This is how their body works. I wonder how that's going to come back over to trap shooting. I feel like I got my money's worth for sure going over there.
Well, absolutely. And I tell people this all the time when I'm teaching. I shoot a lot of sporting clays all summer long. When I'm not shooting trap, I'm shooting sporting clays. I shoot a sporting clays league. I shoot a 5-stand league all summer long. So when I get back, my squad, Ryan Glow, myself, my son Tyler, Todd and Chase Walter, we shoot on a sporting league. And we run out there and we shoot 200 sporting targets every time I'm back. So that, I think, helps you in the trap game, in my opinion.
I think it does. And, I didn't shoot sporting a lot before, but I used to practice skeet. And I think that skeet was teaching me to stand the gun and move left to right. And that's what helped my doubles out a lot. But whenever I was coming out of the gun, I would start doing things that required more gun movement. The more gun movement, the more I had to stay in that gun. And then I'd come back to trap and everything's a little tighter. And you're like, okay, this is a lot easier now. So
absolutely. I think I got my money's worth on everything, even after buying the gifts for our families,
Well, yeah, you got to buy gifts though. I mean, you go you buy without them and you're telling them how to do a podcast, and then you don't come home with any gifts. It gets rough.
Yeah, you end up at Louis Vuitton and but
the good news is no taxes though. We like that. No taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
You buy something and then you go back to the airport and they refund your tax based on your passport number. So that was kind of cool. As far as, obviously I wasn't in the winner's circle. Ricky won a couple flash targets, which is obviously something he's going to do everywhere he goes. But did it touch on the shooters that really, performed at a high level? Matthew Dumas, is that how you say his name? Dumas?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
he won champion. And then
he was tied. He was tied.
They were high, and then he shot up with Anthony, and he ended up winning. But for America, we had Anthony finish second, and then we had Joe Finizzi finished third, correct?
Joe Finizzi and Dominic Grassi tied. And so they shot off, and it was a long shoot off. I think they went something like 50, 60 target, whatever it was. And they ended up tied. Joe ended up beating him, and Joe also won first in junior. So yeah, that was good.
And then for ladies, Madison Sharp won champion. And then Karen
Miles, she was shot off for runner-up and third, and she got runner-up.
So I mean, a lot of Americans showed presence there. So it's always good to know, because a lot of times there's great shotgun shooters from all over the world. You got to give it to these guys. I mean, they're shooting a bunch of stuff that we've never seen, but it just shows that, I guess, if you're training on the courses here in America and you're shooting it consistently, you're at that high level, you should be prepared at some level to go over here. That's what I would think. I mean, but congratulations to all the winners, including the flash target winners. Those weren't me, which I'm a little bitter. I kind of wanted that $500, but hey, it is what it is.
All the listeners, we enjoyed it. You know, I'm really wanting to, travel and shoot some more sporting in other parts of the world just to experience it. Because, I mean, I've been shooting trap for 35 years, and I've shot a clay target in about every state in the United States, except I think Alaska and Maine. And planning on going fishing this summer in Alaska, taking my wife and son there. And hopefully I can grab a shotgun and go shoot some clay targets while I'm there to knock that off the bucket list. But I really want to shoot sporting in other parts of the world, and just to, try to compete. I mean, did I do my best over in the Fuhjairah? No. I mean, I could have hit probably 15 or so more targets and maybe placed up a little higher, but hey, it was an experience,
right? It's an experience.
Exactly.
And I think going back, we're going to learn. And I think, if any Americans want to go, I think we should plan it, 2025, if we're going to head out there, get a bunch of us and fly out together, because it's a good time. The dinners are done.
Yeah.
Drink at the resorts. I mean, it's just a good time.
Well, and the other thing is if you want any info on it or any questions on this trip, hit Zachary up. We can send you info. We can get you info.
Well, I think this has been a great experience together with you, Rick. I'm going to enjoy it. We're going to get a lot of pictures out there. I still got a bunch of stuff to post on the internet, but it was definitely a trip of a lifetime. I'm going to want to go again. I appreciate you taking the time today to share with the listeners the experience, and we're gonna have something good for you again, trap related, next Friday. You guys will look out. I think we're gonna have the Bartholomew brothers, so it should be a good episode for sure.
Absolutely.
Anything you like to say in closing, Richard?
Guys, I would just like to thank everybody from Fuhjairah, the Crown Prince, for putting on such an awesome shoot. The people that were behind the scenes there. The one lady, and I can't remember her name, she helped me out with my passport.
I think Sarah.
No. She was, I can't, it was Arabic name. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But anyways, she was, they just helped out. And then also all the Americans, Anthony Matarese, Nick Berry, Caitlin and her mom, Mama Jean, and then my partner in crime here, Giuseppe.
Yeah.
We nicknamed him because Giuseppe kept tipping everybody, and we got about everything we could with tips,
so a couple dollars, it opens up the doors. That's
sure. But thanking my sponsors for allowing me to continue to do this and shooting, and my family, my wife and son, allowing me to travel all the way to the Middle East.
100%. And I would like to thank our show sponsors, obviously Remington, obviously Wenig. We have Shot Tracker. These are great companies. Give them all a shot. We've got some new sponsors coming in the future that we're going to announce. So exciting news, and we'll be back next Friday. So hope you all have a great day.
Absolutely. Thanks, Zach.
Oh, and don't forget RM shooting clinics.
Yeah. Zach Bot forgot me.
I never forget RM shooting clinics. Well, have a great day, everyone.